always, Erin Bates is there to give us all the latest on this developing story. And this time, Erin, it's ANC MP and National Assembly House Chair Cedric Floric. Or let me try that again. Cedric Floric, is that the right pronunciation? Erin, you'll tell us. But more dirt being dished by Angelo Agrizzi, not only on this ANC MP, but on Gavin Watson himself.
Yes, Michelle, it's Cedric Frolic, but I completely understand. I completely garbled a word from Nomvula Mokonyane's statement yesterday, which for some reason my eyes just couldn't recognize as a real word. But yes, you're right. That chairperson from Parliament, Cedric Frolic, someone that Gavin Watson allegedly called the chair of chairs, and was on Angelo Agrizzi's testimony the means to an end, and that end was ANC MP Vincent Smith, who, ironically, considering your conversation just now on party funding, was the chair of a committee looking into changing the political party funding bill. But be that as it may, Bosasa targeted really Vincent Smith because at the time he was on the portfolio committee for the Department of Correctional Services. He was someone Agrizzi says was rather hostile and bristly toward Bosasa, and they wanted to endear the company to him. And on his allegations, this is Agrizzi, Gavin Watson ordered that 40,000 rand monthly bribes in cash be paid to Cedric Frolic, who had a relationship with the Watson family from his time in the Eastern Cape, and also critically had a relationship with Vincent Smith. And then Frolic facilitated a meeting between Angelo Agrizzi, colleague Ngwenya from Bosasa, and then Cedric Frolic and Vincent Smith in the parliamentary precinct, which Agrizzi says then happened. Smith wasn't particularly warm toward Bosasa or himself during that meeting, but he handed over some paraphernalia, some brochures for Bosasa, and then over time, Agrizzi says Smith really warmed to the company.
Erin, he's also testified around just exactly how Gavin Watson went about destroying evidence, including documentation that might have had his signature, and how he had ordered the burning of several computers, really getting to the sort of dirty part of this business as Gavin Watson was running it.
Yes, and one of those was an instance he'd mentioned before. Agrizzi had described Watson taking a document, tearing it up, putting it into a bag and turning it into pulp before flushing that pulp down a toilet. He says that document bore Gavin Watson's signature and related to a significant youth centre contract that Bosasa had. And then, as you say, also this astounding information about computers allegedly being buried on site of this prawn plant in the Eastern Cape, on the coast of the Eastern Cape, looking onto the sea. Agrizzi says that Andries van Tonder was then ordered by Gavin Watson to dig up those computers and burn them. He says van Tonder didn't follow that instruction through to its end. They did dig up the computers, but they were then moved and stored at a person's garage. And he's hinted and sort of nudged the authorities to go after that person and see if they can find those computers, because Agrizzi's intimated they contain critical information and evidence about all the malfeasance and the skullduggery at Bosasa.
Yeah, absolutely. Erin, this news just in a short while ago, the African National Congress applying to cross-examine Angelo Agrizzi. Just according to your knowledge of how these kinds of applications work, how do things proceed from here on? Once this application is received by the Commission, what happens then in terms of permission to cross-examine?
Well, what we know from Nomvula Mokonyane, Minister of Environmental Affairs, statement yesterday is that she's made a formal complaint to the inquiry over the stipulated notice period in the regulations. She is aggrieved that the inquiry deviated from its own rules, in that initially, before Agrizzi's testimony in January, she wasn't notified 14 days in advance as required that she'd be mentioned in his testimony. She was informed late on Wednesday that she'd be mentioned in his subsequent testimony now, but that gives you some indication of the proper process that's meant to be followed according to the regulations. So if, for example, Agrizzi had indicated in his written statement he was going to implicate the ANC's top six in this allegation of receiving donations, and I emphasize that word donations, of up to 12 million rand, then it's possible the ANC top six should have been notified in advance. Be that as it may, the party can of course approach the inquiry's legal team, perhaps raise a grievance about not getting a heads up, and then apply for permission to cross-examine. That will then need to be heard or at least read by the inquiry chair, reviewed, and then Zondo, the chairperson, Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, can make a decision either to grant it or not. But of course, the catch is the ANC top six then would be liable to come and testify, and that could then open up a whole new batch of evidence at the Commission.
Yeah, absolutely it would. Thanks very much for that update. Our reporter Erin Bates, as always, giving us the lowdown of things as they're unfolding at the State Capture Inquiry in Parktown. It is on a short tea break. Just as soon as it resumes, we will take you back there live.